Right now we're standing in front of the facade for Friday the 13th Camp Blood. It's in construction right now, but what's going to happen during the event is that Crazy Ralph is roaming the area while the guests are waiting in line, and what is he telling them? Of course, he's telling them, you're all doomed. And then we go inside, so let's take a quick tour. Right now we're inside the barn from Friday the 13th Part 3, and we like to establish the character Jason right up front. So through those bars you'll see a flash of lightning, and Jason in his traditional hockey mask appears and makes an immediate lunge for our guests, and then they get shoved further into the barn. We use every single thing we can use to psychologically prey on our guests, and that includes the sense of smell. So when you're in the barn, you smell the scent of manure. And this is Jason's first victim that's being dressed right now. Where I'm standing is where Sackhead Jason from Friday the 13th Part 2 appears. He busts out of here with his sledgehammer and drives you further into the attraction. And then we start making our way through, of course, more slaughtered animal parts into the tool shed. In this case, he's got a poor victim stuck in this vise. His head's in the vise. Jason comes in and gives the vise a crank. We have a triggered audio effect that sounds like his bones in his skull are crushing. And we tie this into a water spritz effect so that the guests think eye goo is shooting out of the victim. This is our classic 5 miles to Camp Crystal Lake sign. During the event, the lighting is really low. There's tree branches and canopies everywhere, and we take you out into the woods. And again, we use the sense of smell. We pump in the scent of pine so that you think you're out in the woods at night, and Jason is out there. What we're building over here is a camping tent scene. You see the boyfriend that's already been murdered, and then we meet his girlfriend inside here. Inside the tent, there's a body that's actually an animatronic. So when he walks in, he hits the foot trigger, the body splits in half, the lights go out to cover this, Jason buries his machete in the body, and then blood shoots out of the body all over our guests. And here we're at the entrance to Camp Crystal Lake Cabins. We try to hit every single detail all the way down to the props and decor and set dressing. So for our guests, if you're really, really into Friday the 13th, even if you look at the tiniest little things, you'll see maps of Camp Crystal Lake. You'll see a schedule for the day's activities. Every single detail gets hit in this attraction. This is for the wheelchair victim that has the machete in his head. Again, there's a secret door for Jason back here so he can make a dramatic entrance. And this poor guy that you think is dead leaps to life. And again, every single prop, every single detail, these are old camp pictures from the 50s. So we try to set it up that Camp Crystal Lake is deserted, but the eternal evil of Jason Voorhees still haunts the camp. This is our homage to Crispin Glover, the corkscrew kill. Pops through the serving window, grabs the hatchet, gives it a good twist. Then we start heading into the bedrooms of Camp Crystal Lake, and we all know what happens there. It's teenagers having sex and getting killed. When you're designing an attraction like Friday the 13th Camp Blood, for us, what we really want to do is we want to deliver to the fans all their favorite kills from the Friday the 13th series. So this is a kill from Freddy vs. Jason. This is the guy who gets his back broken in half. There's a performer that's laying here with his head against the bed. Jason comes storming into the room. He grabs hold of the bed, and he gives it a good... And there's a triggered audio switch that the performer hits, so you get the sound of his bones breaking, and of course, once again, blood that sprays all over him. This one takes some explaining. Basically, what we're trying to do is the double penetration kill. And we have a young lady who's scantily clad, covered in blood, that's underneath this fake body. Jason is above, and he's just driving it into her. We hit every detail, as I said before. Now we leave Camp Crystal Lake again and go back into the woods and on our way to the boathouse. And for us, this is the place we think Jason hangs out when he's not killing everybody in the camp. So the look we're trying to get in the boathouse is that it's been decayed, it's been sitting here for years, the walls are literally rotting away, and all the props are. Every single thing we do is custom. Nothing is off the shelf. Everything is sourced, purchased, dressed, decored, aged for whatever room we're going to put it in. And this particular room is a decapitation scene. There is a body kneeling on the floor. Jason is standing above him. The head is actually magnetically attached so that Jason can cut off the head. And here we're working on Mother's Shrine, of course, a trademark of Friday the 13th. What happens in this room once we've fully dressed it, there's dead bodies all over the table, including the corpse of Pamela Voorhees with her head missing. That's actually a performer. As our guests come into this room, they just think there's a bunch of dead, static bodies lying around, and then suddenly Pamela Voorhees comes to life, comes crawling across the floor at them, and this scares the living hell out of people. This particular picture has an interesting story. This is actually artwork done by a mental patient. found this at a swap meet. We decided Jason needed a place where he went and lived after he died, and this is where our young Jason character pops out. He's actually inside this closet. There's mesh so that he can see the guests coming, but they can't see him. And he pops out of this door. In almost every single horror movie since the dawn of the slasher movie genre, there's inevitably a scene where there's a young girl and she's trying to get away from the killer, and she finds a car and she tries to start it and the battery's dead. So of course we wanted to incorporate that into Friday the 13th Camp Blood. In this particular scene, there's a young lady inside the car, and Jason is above driving his machete into the car trying to get at the girl. This is Kate Hudson's car from Skeleton Key. A lot of times when they finish a movie, they decommission the sets and props, and we got this car, and we trashed it. Another thing about Friday the 13th Camp Blood is that a lot of the trees you see used to be E.T.'s forest in our E.T. ride from the 1980s. Right now we're standing in the very last scene of Friday the 13th Camp Blood. This is the graveyard, and we like to put in some inside jokes for the hardcore fans out there. Of course, Walt Gorney was the guy who played Crazy Ralph, and this gravestone, Steve Christie, is the gentleman who owned Camp Crystal Lake till he was murdered. What happens in the graveyard is that we meet up with Crazy Ralph one last time. At the beginning of the attraction, he warned us that we were headed to Camp Blood and we were all doomed. He sees us coming again. He tells us, "I told you you were all doomed. In fact, this one's for you," and points to this coffin. The coffin bursts open and the corpse version of Jason pops out to drive our guests out of the attraction. Thanks for coming on this behind-the-scenes tour of Friday the 13th Camp Blood here at Universal Studios Hollywood's Halloween Horror Nights. We'll see you at the event.